Director of the IMF, Professor Surjit Bhalla. Professor Bhalla, I appreciate your time. India of today is certainly different from India, which was in 2013. I'm going to quote a part of this report, which says that in a short span of 10 years, India has gained positions in the world order with significant positive consequences for the macro and market outlook. This is what the Morgan Stanley report is saying. Why is this report significant, given that India remains a growth story in the world where recession is lurking?
Absolutely. Look, I've gone through the report and, there isn't much that I disagree with. Indeed, there isn't anything I disagree with. This has been, a long journey for India, and several of us have been documenting the fact that this is a structural change. And a lot of people, or some people, look at it and quarter by quarter numbers, etc., and try and glean something out of it. But this is a mega structural change that has been going on and has accelerated in the last 10 years. Now, what is this structural change? If you look at, and the Morgan Stanley report goes to great lengths to document with a lot of data. Let me take a little time out. What we find is that individuals, experts are often taken to pontificating about the Indian economy without recourse to data. So it's like, I think so, therefore it is so.
Yes.
The Morgan Stanley report is a very significant departure from this tendency to paint the picture as per your ideological or political beliefs. This is a solid, documented report with facts, figures, and no opinions. And the bottom line that comes out is that this is a big structural change. People at the IMF, etc., have also been noting it. The world has been noting it, that we are now the big engine of growth in the world. As you rightly pointed out when you said earlier that in a world facing recession, incidentally, I don't think the world will have a recession. I have consistently been of the view that the world will avoid, the US will avoid. So technically, Europe or Germany has entered into a recession. But I do think the fact that we are at that stage, increasing investments, and the world also now recovering from the shocks, I think the next few years are going to be quite dynamite for India and maybe for some parts of the world as well.
Professor Bhalla, one question that is repeatedly asked is about job creation. What measures do you suggest to address that concern?
Okay, I don't know. I mean, this is one of the fault lines in the Indian public debate, that, when in doubt, bring up inflation. And if you're still in doubt, bring up there are not enough jobs. As it happens, I've done some work on it, which is published for the public to see, that we have created jobs upwards of 10 million a year for the last 5 years. So unemployment rate is down to about 6.5%. I'm not citing private data sources, which may show and which do show a much higher unemployment rate. So I honestly do not, you can say that, listen, everybody should be employed. Yes, I would advocate that. But, an unemployment rate of about 6% for a growing economy like ours, and with increased supply of educated individuals coming into the labor force, is nothing to sneeze at. And again, compare, one of the things I keep emphasizing is that, let us not look on the Indian economy as an island. We are not an island. No country is an island today. So therefore, you're affected much more by global forces than you ever were. So let's recognize that. And therefore, if you're talking about jobs, let's look at which country has provided this percentage increase in jobs. We provided much more jobs over the last few years, including post-COVID, obviously post-COVID, than even the US. So, and US, we all say is a big success in terms of provision of jobs. And when it comes to India, I don't know what data people look at, but really there is no evidence to suggest that we have an employment problem anymore in India.
Okay, my last question is, from being the fragile five in 2013 to becoming the fastest growing economy in 2022-23, we certainly have traveled a long way. Do you think India really has to overcome the risk of being a Brazil? Because that is often said that our growth story should not really plateau from here on.
Well, if we plateau at 7.5%, 8%, that's not called plateauing. I would certainly not in my book. That's living up to and growing at our potential, perhaps even higher. But, in a world where world economic growth has slowed down, that for us to be growing at 7.5%, 8% is very, very commendable and something to be respected and something to be admired. I do think we can, remember what we just talked in the beginning about the infrastructure investment.
Yes.
One of the first lessons in economics is that infrastructure investment affects growth with a lag. So we are yet to see the performance when the lag comes in. So, I think 7.5%, 8% is certainly doing brilliantly. And as I said, I have made suggestions about how we can accelerate this growth process, and one of them being through a reduction in direct taxes. One of the things pointed out in this Morgan Stanley report, which I fully agree with, that just look, I remember perhaps even in discussions with you and other TV channels, when the government cut the corporate tax rate in 2019. And everybody was saying, our tax revenues would go down and this and that and whatever. Look at what has happened. It's transformed. And I think the only big area for tax reform, other than sort of GST, lowering taxes in GST, are direct taxes. India needs a significant revision and reform of direct taxes. And then, we'll be asking as to whether 8% is enough. I certainly think we can grow on a sustained basis at something close to 8.5% if we do the reforms that some of the people are recommending.
Professor Surjit Bhalla, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for decoding the Morgan Stanley report.